Anti-Afro Svengalis, I'm going to give a disclaimer before I start this video, or a reminder I think might be more appropriate. This is YouTube's platform. Nobody here is going to do anything to anybody as far as what they're saying unless YouTube determines the content is not fit for YouTube. So you have this effort going around trying to control people as to what they're saying, how they're expressing their feelings, what quote sides they're taking. This is YouTube's platform. And I'm just reemphasizing that. So I want to point to the title, and I want to tell you the reason why I put Smoke's name in the title is because this video is based on what happened in a live stream. It was sent to me. Smoke was in that segment, and I believe Smoke's wife was briefly in that segment. Just so you know, this has nothing to do with Photon. If people want to try to run around, nope, I'm focusing specifically on this segment. And Smoke was in that segment. It was disgusting. I'm going to tell you what happened. And this is something I'm hoping you all can take a lesson from, or at least ponder what I'm saying for your protection. So you have this snake slithering around, and not Smoke. I'm not talking about Smoke. There's a snake there. And the snake is working very hard to try to convince the Smoke about who he is. Telling Smoke about who he is. So there were a couple times when the snake started insisting that the snake have the floor. It's not the snake's channel, by the way. A couple times Smoke was able to quiet the chorus, because there were some other people on that panel, to say, I'm paraphrasing, you keep making these statements, but every time I talk, you cut me off. You just spoke for I don't know how many minutes, and I sat quietly, but as soon as I talk, you start to speak and cut me off. But let me tell you specifically about this. And I'm not playing the clip here. I'm not playing that snake here. You have to take note. And obviously, Smoke, he has his own interpretation. This is my interpretation. And I don't know what he thinks about this, but this is how I saw it. Every time Smoke tried to speak, and the few words that were coming out weren't what the snake wanted to hear, the rage increased. Not interested in hearing what Smoke had to say, the goal was forcing Smoke to agree with his characterization of Smoke. And Smoke's wife, oddly enough, okay, didn't want to hear anything about the past, because Snake wants you only to focus on the here and now, and why my characterization of you, Smoke, is correct. So when Smoke tried to bring in the past, the snake started claiming the snake had memory loss. That also could have been a repelling method, because it wasn't going to matter what happened in the past, because Snake's trying to contain the target. And this is how indoctrination takes place. As soon as you open your mouth, the goal is to intimidate you with anger, so you can stifle either your comments or acquiesce to what the snake is saying. And this played out with Stargate, played out with breaking the culture of silence, and both adamantly refused to go along with it and kick the snake to the curb. So the snake has been on a rampage, targeting any and everybody who has a positive relationship or doesn't have a negative relationship, however you want to put it, or a neutral relationship with Stargate or breaking the culture of silence. So the anger continued to rise and rise and rise. The rage continued to fester each time Smoke did not comply like a dutiful child and agree with what a snake is saying about him. This is what you have to be careful of. If somebody's trying to force you to adopt a view of yourself that you know isn't true, know what you're dealing with. You're dealing with someone who relies on anger in effort to control others. And this is what the snake was trying to do to Smoke. And I thought it was really disgusting how the snake was trying to say that's why nobody comes to your channel. Who the hell would want somebody at their channel who's acting like this? Or anyone acting like this, expecting you to do exactly what they say. And if you don't, guess what they're going to do to you on the channel? They're going to mute you. They're going to hold you backstage. They're going to let people talk over you. They're going to scream at you. And then they want to say, I body bagged you. That's what was going on. There were some other realities going on with that live stream, or this segment rather. A sexy toy lady was never going to be impartial. Sexy toy lady is indoctrinated. When Stargate and Breaking the Culture of Silence, each of them made it clear what was happening, she folded. She was intimidated, and she's not going to be impartial. She gets up there and tries to say it's even. They were harassed before. It's talking about us, but now it's even. Tell me how somebody's being harassed when they block people and people continue any and everything under the sun, making 5 and 6 screen names, trying to talk to you, posting your family's photos as avatars, bringing up their spouses, targeting your children, and they say, we're harassing people. And we are simply saying, we don't want to deal with you. So this is the reinforcement. Don't worry about me, Smoke, if I come to your channel. You have your standards on your channel. You don't need to protect me. I'm not going to have discussions with any person who engages in the type of conduct that I just described. They try so hard to make you believe that you are wrong for defending yourself. It doesn't matter how many people are screaming and hollering. Everybody gets to determine what their limit is. If people decide this is it, I'm going to defend myself, they have a right to do that. But for anyone to become enraged because someone is simply trying to speak and the first 3 or 4 words coming out of their mouth isn't what they want to hear, so they get enraged and tell you, that's why I don't want to talk to you. They're trying to force you into believing, into listening, and to adopting what their perception is of you. The snake is not mature enough to handle adult conversation. Who wants to waste their time talking to anyone like that? Well, it's your choice. Sexy toy lady doesn't have the guts to even stand by what she says, because when she made that asinine comment that it's even, I confronted her in Remix's chat and she refused to answer the question. That tells me you're full of shit, sexy toy lady. If you're going to make a statement, be woman enough to back it up and give an answer. See, that's why I don't want to waste my time going on these panels, because these subjects cave to other people because they're being yelled at. They're not even barely thinking for themselves. They go by someone else's anger gauge towards you, and then they'll decide whether or not they're going to answer the question. They decide what side they're going to take. That segment that I heard was in no way impartial, absolutely, positively one-sided, with a snake who's been proven to backstab, harass, and abuse others, trying to tell a grown-ass man who he is. Someone who has to drink and use drugs all day to do a live stream is trying to tell somebody else about themselves. Someone who keeps talking about they got memory loss. But I do think this memory loss excuse is false repellent, failed repellent, as is this, I'm just trolling. When Stargate and Breaking the Culture of Silence refused to be obedient slaves, Snake started attacking them in chats. There are certain things you don't do if someone is your friend, you support somebody. This was not joking. This was abusive. And they had it. They were fed up with it. And they kicked the snake to the freaking curb. And since then, the snake is out for revenge. Since then, the snake is out for revenge. Failed to indoctrinate you, they start doing other shit. Who needs anyone like this? Who gives a shit if subjects like this don't come to a channel? Well, everyone has a right to answer that question for him or herself. And I'm going to tell you what else was phony as freak. in the segment that I heard, you had a person, I'm going to say this name too, Samba, who was going over to Smoke's channel. Smoke, she used you. She used you. She was going to your channel with the cup in hand, running around trying to put the cup under the strongest stream of water. But you got to keep testing, right? Let me see, what's this spout is stronger, that spout is stronger. So that's why this person went over to your chat and was grilling you about me, about Rev G. Disrespectful, uncouth, tacky ass, out of control subject who goes on people's panels and tells them what they should be doing, tells the host to shut up, very careful about which panels she goes on. And when she's trying out a new panel, like she was doing with the Smoke, she had her gauges on, throwing out all this information, asking these questions, continuously asking questions about me and Rev G, trying to gauge how much Smoke would take. She was trying to see if she could determine if Smoke was receptive to being hostile towards us. And then she cut up on Smoke on some other panel. Smoke, this person was using you. I don't think the person didn't succeed because you didn't bend to her whim. That's why she didn't go back. This is the same person that went up to Photon's panel where a lot of people were talking about him. So what she wanted to do, she wanted to curry favor with those coming at Photon. So she grabs Photon's link and is disrespectful to him on his own panel. Every panel she goes to, she's disrespectful and tries to tell the host what they should and shouldn't be doing, to shut up and all this stuff. Well, if you allow someone to do that on your channel, that's what you do. And that applies to whoever out there who allows it. But in my opinion, she wasn't able to have a position on Smoke's channel that she wanted. So she decided it was to her advantage to become adversarial because she saw people coming at the Smoke. This is what the subject always does. Went over to Rev G's chat, gauging the situation. Oh my God, too many people are talking shit about the fact that I was there. See, you know what? Who needs anybody like that? Who needs anybody like this around? These are users who don't have the guts to stand up for themselves. And nothing that they can say to me or about me is going to matter. I don't have these types of conflicts. If I'm rocking with the person, I'm rocking with the person. I'm not going to go to a chat and start sneak dissing someone who I'm rocking with. But there are those out there constantly engaged in this conduct. They know exactly what they're doing. They think it's possible to be liked by everyone. And I don't want all of the people talking about me this week because they're mad at this person. Or I don't want the people talking about me. They're mad at this person this week. Well, I don't want the people talking about me. I can't imagine living like that. Do you know how to be true to yourself and have any semblance of this is how I stand? What you have to keep in mind is that these subjects can be any way they want. The question is, they're going to convince you to adopt their belief system when it comes to you. And this isn't something people do just willy-nilly. These are deeply ingrained habits. But one thing I want to point out that is bizarre about a snake that lives in a state, or a city rather, where one of the highest populations of gay men and trans women live. So you have this population in Atlanta, but then you have a snake who habitually comes onto YouTube, and every time the snake is angry at a man, the snake puts the man in women's clothes. Also uses baby alterations, but for the most part, anger towards a man prompts the snake to put the man in women's clothes. This is an issue for the snake. It has nothing to do with those that the snake targets. There is something seriously amiss and bizarre about a go-to that puts men in women's clothing as digs. And just try to imagine the day that those who conduct whatever type of business, whether it's running a business or as an employee, gets a hold of all this trans attacking, homophobic content. That's why it's best to let subjects do what they do. Because eventually, just like what's happening with Carrie Ann, It's going to catch up with him. Mark my words. Folks, you know I have more coming your way. In the meantime, you know the drill. Buyer beware.